Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Dan. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Great, yeah.
It's going to be a busy weekend.
Because
Tonight you're taking me to dinner for my birthday.
I'm excited for that.
I
want to put some meat in my mouth. Love it.
Yeah,
my favorite thing to do.
Same. We're going to my favorite steakhouse in town, which is Shula's down at the Walt Disney World Dolphin. I went there for the first time for a work function. The company I worked for was a consulting firm for credit unions and community banks. And they hosted a convention every year for their clients. And the year that I went, it was at the Dolphin or the Swan. I don't remember which. And I didn't have a lot of interaction with the clients. I was their internal network administrator. But the guy who was my boss was the guy who ran the networking and technology kind of practice for the consulting company. So he knew, whenever a new bank set up and they needed somebody to come in and set up their Windows network and their Citrix servers and farm and all that stuff, this company would do that. And so while I didn't do consulting for that company, I reported to the guy who ran the consulting practice for networking. And I was there for whatever reason, I think to work on somebody's laptop or something. And they were hosting a client dinner at Shula's. And my boss was like, "Charles, why don't you come along? You might enjoy this."
That's great. That's a cool boss, man.
He was awesome. Yeah, he was the best boss I think that I've probably ever worked for.
That's
other
awesome.
than myself. He invited me to come along to that dinner. And, it was basically all the clients, all the consultants, order whatever you want. And he was putting on his Amex and getting the points and, then expensing it to the company. And, had my first bottle of wine. Well, I didn't have the whole bottle, but I had my first glass of a wine I believe I shared with you, a Merlot called Markham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the first time I had it. It was his favorite wine. He ordered multiple bottles for the table. And I was like, man, this is really good. And it was like at Publix, I think it was like a 22 or 23. It was not a very expensive bottle of wine, but it was delicious.
That's excellent.
And, I had my first one there. And, I think that night I think it was a weekend night. So Shula's had prime rib.
Okay.
And that's the only prime rib I had ever had where you could eat every bite of it. Like before they brought it out to you, all the grizzle and fat was trimmed off of it and you could eat every bite of it without having a bunch of fat.
Work to do on that prime rib, right?
And it was nice. I'd never had prime rib like that. I'd only gotten prime rib at, I wouldn't say like Golden Corral level places, but pretty much like cheap steakhouses where there was, like an Outback or something like that, where you had a lot of work to do to prime rib if you didn't like chewing on the fat. And, it was the first really, really good prime rib that I'd had. And I went back a few years ago to take my clients on a dinner and we went to Shula's and I got that prime rib again. And it was just as good as I remember.
It was that Shula's or was it
that exact Shula's?
Okay.
That exact Shula's.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's nice in there. The decor is all, dark wood and pictures of football players from the 1972 Dolphins. It's great.
It works for me because I grew up a Dolphins fan and Don Shula was my favorite coach and it's at the Dolphin. So, it works for me as well. So,
yeah, I love that place.
I'm happy to go with you.
They bring the menu out of football and they bring you all the cuts of meat you can look at. And I don't think I'll do dessert there. If you're still up for hitting Disney Springs for dessert. Oh, you were just at Disney Springs. Did you get any sweets while you were there?
Did not. No, I've been strict keto. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be that strict tonight.
It's your birthday, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to have that pistachio cream puff from
go nuts
from Amaret's bakery. I'm going to have that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll eat the whole thing, but I'm going to have some of it. And it looks so good.
Yeah.
Or the birthday cake cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, listen, man. One or two meals of eating whatever the you want is not going to ruin your progress of anything. I think mentally and even hormonally,
right?
I think it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah, one day back on scrambled eggs and canned chicken and keto chow.
Unless you're hitting that Target trail mix like a handful every day,
that's
that could start to get in the way.
Yes, sure. Because what do we decide? That's like 1,600 calories per bag or something like that. It was pretty high.
Yeah, it's surprising when you actually sit down and do some math with some of the food that we're eating. It adds up
like
quick.
A bag of trail mix is what I should be at for a calorie goal for an entire day. where it's so crazy that some food has so much more than you think, and then some food has so much less than you think. Like an extra large egg is between 70 and 80 calories, I think.
Yeah.
And you would think that, wow, eggs are they're so rich and meaty and stuff, but
well, right now, a lot of times the way we eat those eggs,
right, yeah,
we're adding butter, we're adding cheese in an omelet, we're adding all this other stuff, and then that really maybe a little side of bacon. Yeah. Before you know it, the calories can definitely add up for sure on that. But it's also a lot about the satiety too.
Yeah, exactly. And eggs are good for. Yeah, my breakfast the last few days, because I ran out of sausage, I haven't gone to the grocery store yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing half dozen eggs and with 1 tablespoon of butter and nothing else, salt and pepper, and that's it. And I eat that early-ish in the morning, and I'm set till 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And so, yeah, and I think that's coming out to, it's around 500, 600 calories.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so if I can make that last all day and then just have a dinner, then I'm done eating, and that's the path for me to lose weight. But it doesn't always go that way every day.
So we were just talking before the podcast. We've got some goal, or you have some goal. We both have some goals, but what do we? Let's get this out in the public here. Let's for some accountability. Yeah. Let's have a date by when and how much weight you want to be at, so that.
All right, today's the last day of November.
It is the last day of November because we had some goals for the birthday. And
we did, and we got...
And we didn't take any... Well, you did take a picture, but it wasn't the one that you were looking for.
I didn't get exactly where I wanted to get for my birthday.
Correct.
I could see some of my upper abs, but not my lower ones.
And you know what? That's still progress, though, man.
Oh, it's a huge progress.
It's absolute progress.
I'm happy with how it went.
Right, and so let's take credit for that, and then realize, okay, look, we're going to adjust.
Yeah, but by the end of the year... I think I should probably be around pretty close to 150 if I want to be absolutely certain that I'll see what I want to see in the mirror.
All right.
And so, yeah, that's 10 or 11 pounds
December
in a month.
31st.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I can get close. But again, my main goal is not the number on the scale. It's what I see in the mirror.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think as low as I got was around 157.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good enough. So there's a few pounds, maybe 5 would be enough. I don't know. I don't know if it'd be more than that or not, but I got some work to do to be willing to take a picture. I did find the shirt that I want for picture day though.
Okay.
We talked about, I think just posing for a picture with your shirt off, you kind of look like a douche. And so I think the look of an unbuttoned shirt, for whatever reason, even though you're showing basically the same amount of skin, it looks less douchey. So that's what I'm going to do.
I mean, listen, here's the thing is you could also just take these progress pics for yourself.
That's true. And I might not share them anyway, but it still feels douchey.
Just right. But at the same time, though, you can look back on it and go, okay, yeah, this is, I'm happy with the way I look, and you just need a little pick me up when you're not feeling good about stuff.
That's true.
Really, on the same thing.
You have to remind me, hey, this is possible. If you apply yourself, you can do this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or I achieved this.
Right. That's true.
And it's like, okay, and whatever's, eating at you a little bit, it doesn't hurt so much anymore. And same thing with past accomplishments. An ex of mine was really nice. She listed out a bunch of things that I accomplished in my life when I was struggling a little bit to start a new project or do something that I hadn't done before, getting out of my comfort zone. And just when I feel down on myself, like I can't do it, I would just review this, and I had it right in my kitchen here.
Oh, nice.
And you just list it out on my whiteboard, and I just take a glance and be like, wow, I forgot. There's so many things that we've all done in our lives that we're actually pretty proud of, that were impressive, that we just forget about. They're not top of mind. So to have that easily available is absolutely priceless. And I don't leverage that idea enough. The funny thing is we have these great ideas on the podcast, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, I forget about it and I don't implement them, but sometimes I get some great ones with you here. So, I'm going to change as part of my New Year's resolution that I'm starting right now. So
yeah, I like that. And I had a guy
implement some of these things.
I had a guy at my men's group, last night talk about his the value he's been getting out of his gratitude journaling. And I bought a gratitude journal for men not too long ago, and I just haven't put a single word in it yet. And I'm gonna make a practice of. I think the thought that I had last night when I was hearing him talk was, before I leave the house for the day, I'm gonna just toss it right in the middle of my bed. And so
you're practically tripping over it.
Exactly. So that I'm going to,
good idea.
Before I go to bed for the night, it's like I have to move it in order to get into the bed. And this morning I ordered a multi-pack of these they're little sticky loopholes that you can put like on the inside of a book that you can then slide, put a pen through the loop.
Oh, nice.
And so I used it for my bullet journals and stuff like that. I added one to my gratitude journal this morning before I left the house. So now the pen is always attached to the gratitude journal. The gratitude journal will be in the middle of the bed. And so before I go to sleep, there's no reason I mean, I will have to decide not to do it at this point.
Yeah.
In order to skip it. So yeah,
Good.
that's
I like
the
it.
latest implementation. All right. We finally got through Atomic Attraction and, oh my gosh, it felt like we were on that book forever.
Well, it didn't help that we had to record the last episode
3 times.
3 fucking
That's
times,
true. Yeah.
Dude. It was, it was just, the universe was just like, nope, not done yet. Nope, not done yet.
I know. And it's out there now. It's the last episode. And again, it was, I think we both considered that book a bit of a mixed bag. I liked the early stuff better than the late stuff. I liked the, almost the superficial stuff about what you can do for, your attitude and your style at the very beginning before you are even trying to go and talk to a girl.
Yeah.
Like, what are the things you can do that work in your favor?
Yeah.
That stuff I liked and I agreed with. It was the stuff, after you're in the relationship that I was just like, oh, I don't like where this guy's coming from, or where it feels like this guy's coming from. I can't say for sure, but what it felt like was kind of creepy.
And that was, for me, that was good because that now stops me from ever thinking that this is a good option or that's a good option. The things that he brought up in some of those later chapters, which we see a lot of those in TV and movies. And when we're growing up, things that we may have tried ourselves or seen people do.
Yeah.
And seeing it on paper and looking at it and talking through what a bad idea some of these things are with you and the potential consequences of those really made me feel more mindful so that if a similar situation comes up, that's the last thing that I'm going to choose to do. So that's the value I got out of it.
Yeah,
it's more of a friendly reminder or cautionary tale of where our mind can go when we're not feeling the best and our emotions are running a little bit hot.
Yeah. I would say, that's, I've seen that in my own life, that insecure men love a caper or a scheme. And I feel like that's what toward the end of that book, he was selling a lot of capers and schemes.
And drumming up drama.
Yes,
I feel,
absolutely.
I feel like that's something some producers of a reality show would tell their couples that they're taping to do,
Yes. And if you can get to the point where you can honestly say, I would rather be alone than jump through these kinds of hoops to keep a girl, then you're instantly on the path to finding and spending your time with higher quality girls. If you're willing to say, no, I'd rather be alone than have to do this kind of stuff, then you will find yourself either alone and happy or with a healthy woman and happy. But if you have to resort to those kinds of tactics to keep a girl in your life, that's not a girl you want in your life.
And one of my other takeaways was that if you are resorting to these tactics, you are becoming the person that you're going to attract. So
correct.
Now you're going to be attracting a woman who
plays
these games, who responds to these things. And another healthy reminder that when I want to spend some time doing something, it should be to make myself a better person to attract and keep the person that I want to have in my life.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So enough. We closed the book on that book, and now we're off to Self-Care for Men by Garrett Munce or Muncie. I don't know how it's pronounced exactly. It looks like Munce, like dunce with an M. And you and I have hit the first few chapters of this ourselves, and we're going to start talking about them and what we found and what we think of it. So I guess the first way to kind of set the table here is, what does the author think self-care is, and are we on board with that or are we not? He kind of defines it as self-care is doing stuff that makes you feel good, where that seems fairly accurate, but maybe a little short-sighted, because some of the stuff that I would almost consider level 2 self-care, like the hard stuff, the stuff that really makes a difference, like I mean, for some men, going to therapy, going to rehab, going to 12-step, cutting certain family members out of your life. I mean, I consider all those things to be self-care, but I would say that's a level 2 self-care that we're not going to really cover in this book. This book is more of the level 1 stuff that most of us can figure out a way to do fairly easily. But those level 2 self-care things, they don't feel good.
No. And I think the reason they're level 2 is because you need to have a level of self-worth that the level 1 stuff he talks about helps you build.
Yeah, I agree. That's
true.
So
now your identity is that of somebody that I care about myself. I care about the way I look. I care about the way I present myself in the world. And because of that, now you can start to identify, after doing some of these simple things, you can start to identify the other unhealthier things that are really standing out now, which might be unhealthy relationships.
Right.
And those are sometimes really difficult to cut. Like you said, I mean, especially if they're family members. Friends are one thing.
Yeah.
But family, it's a whole nother ball of wax, or going to therapy, because now it's a commitment.
Right.
And it's expensive, and you need to have a specific, you need to have some good results out of that. But if you have enough self-esteem, which you can build up from this level 1 stuff, it is worth that investment. It is worth to do the difficult things for you, because you believe that you're worth it.
Yeah. And that's really, we did talk about in the last book how, as a man, a scarcity mindset just leads to you making bad decisions and having bad relationships. And one of the ways you can attack that scarcity mindset is, we've talked about believable affirmations and things like that. But I think the most valuable way to move from a mindset of scarcity to abundance is, with your daily actions, convince yourself, hey, I'm somebody worth doing things for. Good things, difficult things. I'm worth somebody doing these things for, and you got to start by doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And so we'll go through this book, and again, I'll throw out the names of the parts of this book here. Mind, wellness, body, face, hair, spirit, and space. And so we're just going to go through and cover as many of them as we can get through in a reasonable amount of time for an episode, and then we will stop and pick up wherever we leave off. So one thing he says in the introduction is that self-care is a very common, very popular idea and phrase right now. But for the most part, it seems to be owned by women in modern Western society. And it doesn't need to be. There shouldn't be. The concept of self-care should not be limited to any particular group or gender or class or sexual orientation or anything like that. It should be, everybody should be concerned about doing good things for themselves to be their best. And men have a particular habit of neglecting these kinds of things because we're too busy doing other things for other goals. Like one of the things that Andrew Farabee points out in his dating handbook is so many guys have this out of control career ambition where they spend so much time focused on their career because they think that it's going to deliver them the life that they want, the mate that they want, the children that they want, the house that they want. But they're not able to achieve or enjoy any of those things because they're so busy working on the career that they think is going to give them those things.
And the sad thing is that the issue with that is at the very beginning, they're flawed in their thinking in terms of having this career equals a guaranteed, spouse or job or house or lifestyle.
Right.
And while that's part of it, it's naive to think just by focusing on that, you're going to have all those other things. And so that takes some humility and also realizing that you don't have all the information and that you need to kind of go back to square one and go, okay, wait a minute. If I want to have the spouse of my dreams, the lifestyle of my dreams, the family life of my dreams, what else is involved besides my career in order to make that happen? What does that day to day look like? And that's not an easy answer. And there's a lot that gets involved with that. And so I think it's important to, as you're doing these self-care things, you might get tastes of that a little bit. You might get some ideas in terms of what a healthy relationship looks like, because I'm now grounded and centered, and I'm meditating or I'm journaling and I'm being my best self. So I'm now going to attract my perfect partner, or the partner that I want to have.
Yeah.
Right. Or I'm able to shut out what's going on with work and focus on what my kids are doing. And I can actually spend some quality time with them. I'm not just present in the same room while I'm looking on my phone and they're playing their games. I'm actually engaging with them and I'm spending that quality time, even though it might be less in terms of the number. The actual quality is higher, and that's going to make a better relationship, I believe. Right.
Yeah. And, even thinking back to some of, not necessarily the content of the last book, but the discussions you and I had around that book, you don't really find a lot of women that would say, what really attracted me to a man or what kept me in love with a man for decades was his high pressure 80-hour-a-week job.
No, we don't hear that.
No, I've never heard that. But I do know firsthand through my own social circles, I do know, it's kind of a meme or a cliche, but the idea of the starving artist. I know a lot of guys who are either musicians or artists who don't make a lot of money, but have a fun, contented, challenging career as an artist, and a really great girlfriend or partner that supports them through that. And they've never been rich, and they will probably never be rich, but they have the career that they want, and they spend their time on it, and they have the family life that they want as well, because they're following their passion, not following some arbitrary, goal line that they've driven about. Once I have this much in my Roth IRA, then I'll be able to enjoy life.
Yeah. And I think the critical part there is not to say that creative types are going to have better relationships, because we've seen
they have their
people,
own challenges, right, for sure.
Well, because I think anybody can get obsessed with anything that they're excited about, right? So whether some people get obsessed with video games, they play video games all the time. Some people, if you're an artist and all you want to do is paint, you're still not going to be able to have a good relationship because you're spending all your time painting.
Right.
I think the key is figuring out how to bring that passion and that energy and share that with the people in your life, your friends and your family.
Yeah.
And figure out what that balance is. So even if you were a boring stockbroker versus, a sculptor,
right. You can get obsessive
either way,
at the cost of your relationships, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But I would just say broadly, when you consider our audience and you consider men in 2023 America, the most likely mistake to make is, once I see this number on my balance sheet, then I'll be able to enjoy life.
For sure.
And that's a trap that, I found myself in earlier in my life. Certainly not now. Today, I have a mostly low pressure job with bouts of high pressure when things go wrong. But, pretty much every day I wake up and do what I want to do and have the amount of fun. And I've got a work-life balance that I'm very comfortable with. And, having lived both ways, I like this better.
Yeah, for sure.
By a lot.
Yeah. I worked for corporate America and some big companies when I first graduated college, and I had to be at a certain place at a certain time and do certain things that I didn't necessarily think were valuable, but other people did. And then I left in 2005 and started my own company, or helped start another company, just a real small mom and pop shop. Again, the financial security wasn't there,
right?
But the flexibility of time and location is, and I will never go back to working for somebody else again. I will figure out how to make money if I have to.
Yeah,
just absolutely. Having that flexibility, that's priceless. Absolutely.
Yeah. If a corporate IT organization came to me again and said, "We'll give you $1 million a year
to dig a ditch," I remember that was that's your right. Yeah. Yeah.
Dig a ditch, and then tomorrow you come back and fill it in, and then you dig it the next day and then fill it in. That's how I look at those kind of jobs now. And I'm not shitting on those jobs or telling people they shouldn't have those jobs, because some people that works for them, and I've learned that it doesn't work for me. And I would much rather make less money and have the flexibility and the life that I want than have a lot of extra money that I don't need to buy a bunch of stuff that I don't need.
Yeah.
Than being, I like my life the way it is now. And when it comes to, dating and relationships, it's clear to me that I have to have a partner that is okay with that. Otherwise it's not going to work out. Like if I had a partner with tastes or a mindset that was like, no, we need the kind of budget that only you could get by taking on a bunch more clients in your own business or going to work for somebody else, then it's not going to work out. Yeah.
But there's plenty of people who don't need that. Right. So
definitely
there's somebody out there for everybody. I really believe that.
Yeah. And if there's not, that's because you still have work to do. I mean, if you're in a position where I can't find anybody, then, either you need to adjust what you're looking for or you need to adjust what you are.
I was just going to say that I feel looking back in my life when I wasn't attracting the person or I wasn't in the super relationship that I wanted to be in. Most of the time it was because I wasn't the person that I was looking for.
Right.
Like I wasn't investing in myself. And I think that's really the key. I think all of us should be looking in the mirror first. If you're not in a happy relationship, look in the mirror and see, hey, would I date myself? Is that, do I check my own boxes that I've got for somebody else?
Yeah.
Or am I even close?
Right. I think it would be rare for a man to be in a position where he says, am I in a happy relationship? No, I'm not. Would my partner say she's in a happy relationship? Oh yeah, 100%. She would say she's completely content. She loves everything about the relationship, but the guy's miserable. Right. I don't think it works that way.
Right.
Because the way you're feeling about the relationship is probably related to what you're bringing to the relationship.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to take that level of accountability and ownership.
Yeah. Or just lower your expectations then. Right. I mean, if you're not willing to put the work in, then you lower your standards.
Yeah. The saddest people I know are ones who are unhappy and not willing to change the level of investment that they're making in either their relationship or their physical health or their mental health or whatever. It's like, I'm miserable, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to be.
And the thing too is you don't need to be, unfortunately, with social media and TV and stuff, and I'm totally guilty of this too. You see somebody who's at the end state where you want to be, and that seems so far away.
Yeah.
And a lot of times,
I was just telling a friend that's what I try to put out there. I try to make it look like I'm at that end state so that all my friends, who are not single and who do have children, they can look at my Instagram and be like, man, Charles really looks like he's living it up. It's like, spoiler, I'm not, but I like for it to look that way.
and that's fine. But what happens then is sometimes I'll talk myself out of even taking one step forward.
Right.
Because
I'll never be there.
I'll never be there.
100%.
But we got to remember the same thing with affirmations. You can't say something that is so far out there that you don't believe it. Same thing with the self-improvement stuff. And that's what's great about this book. It's little step-by-step stuff that you can do really easily, really quickly with a very low investment of time and energy and money. So
yes, in fact, in the first chapter this will be the cheapest one that we look at because meditation is free, and even guided meditation, like the kind that I am extremely partial to. So I do exclusively guided mindfulness meditation. One of his definitions of what is meditation, well, it's when you clear your mind. Well, some of it is, but mindfulness is not that.
I've never been able to clear my mind.
Nor have
I thought that's what it was for many years.
Me too. Same.
And that's why I was just like, how do these people do it?
And even more hostily, what a waste of time. Why would I want to do that? I mean, that was the attitude I had.
Interesting.
The idea of just sitting around with no thoughts in my head, why would I waste my time with that? There's no benefit to that.
Yeah, logically, I couldn't come to terms with that. I'm like, that's impossible.
Right.
Unless I'm sleeping and then I'm not aware, that's not meditating.
Right. And we've talked about meditation and mindfulness many times on this podcast. And the way that I always try to sell it to my friends and people I care about and our listeners is mindfulness meditation is a workout for your attention. Mm-hmm. The way that you are able to make your attention stronger, where you can spend time concentrating on the things you want and not waste time concentrating on the things you don't want, is through mindfulness meditation. It's a muscle that you work out. and you go either longer or deeper. It's a progression, just like lifting weights is. Either you're going to up your number of reps or you're going to up the number of pounds on the bar. And in the case of mindfulness and meditation, you're either going to have longer sessions or you're going to try to go deeper in your sessions to the point where it gets easier and easier and you get better and better at directing your attention to the thing you want your attention directed to at the exclusion of everything else that you don't. And for mindfulness, the way I do it, it's always your breath. You focus on your breath. And then as you're focusing on your breath and your monkey mind starts popping thoughts into your head, you notice those thoughts. You say, I just had a thought about X. And then you say, and now I'm going to go back to thinking about my breath. And you're not hard on yourself. You don't insult yourself. You don't feel disappointed with yourself. You're just like, oh, I noticed that. Now I'm going back to the breath. And the lack of judgment part is difficult because you're like, I'm spending this 5 or 10 or 15 minutes meditating, and all I'm doing is noticing all these random thoughts on all these random things. And so not beating yourself up for wasting your time is extremely difficult in the beginning. But I mentioned that this particular self-care practice is free because, number one, just about every good meditation app that you can find in the Google Store or on the App Store with Apple, it has a certain level that's free that you can use before they charge you. And then my favorite one, Waking Up by Sam Harris, with his, you just send him an email that says, hey, I love your app, but I can't afford it. And he'll say, you get it for free.
Wow.
Yeah.
For him.
He just gives
That's
it.
Great.
Yeah. For people who can't afford his app, he just gives it to them for free. All you have to do is send an email to info@samharris.org and say, I love your app, but I can't afford it right now. And he says, no problem. You can just have it.
That's great.
Yeah. I agree. The guy puts his money where his mouth is when it comes to his ethics.
Two things that I have discovered that have helped me with what you've just described with the guided meditation in terms of feeling a little judgmental and guilty about spending so much time on these other thoughts before coming back to your breath is that the practice of thinking through those thoughts actually provides a sense of relief because now they're less likely to be running through your mind during the day when you're doing other things.
That's true.
And if they are, it's not going to be as intense. And that's what I've noticed. So you are actually giving yourself that stress relief, and by having those thoughts while you are meditating instead of while you're trying to do other things. So I think there's benefits there. So that makes me feel less guilty because I'm actually feel like I'm doing something and getting some value out of it. And the second thing is that by practicing and getting better and better at the meditation, increasing the amount of time that you're doing it, practicing coming back and noticing different things, that actually helps you during the day when you're trying to focus on things. So you are training your brain to be able to zone in and focus on one thing at a time, as well as block out distractions and everything. I mean, everybody and everything wants our time and attention. So if you're able to, while we're going through life, just focus on one thing at a time, chances are you're going to do it better, you're going to do it more efficiently, and you're going to enjoy it a little bit more, and you're going to do it in a way that you're less stressed. So the benefits of it's not just, well, why am I doing this? Because when I first started doing this, I'm like, why would I just want to focus for 5 to 20 minutes on my breath? Like, what do I get out of that?
Right. What's in it for me?
But it's the time outside of the meditation where you've now honed that skill set and you're using that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The other piece that I liked with guided is instead of that kind of balances a little bit of that monkey mind. So if it's always coming back to the breath, sometimes that can, I know I spend too much time or I feel like it's too much time thinking about other things. I've had some guided meditations where they walk you through sensations of your body. Mm-hmm. So maybe they walk you through different body parts. Hey, are your toes cold? Are they tingling? Are they warm?
Yeah, that's true.
And then
waking up does that too.
Move up to your knees. What do you feel in your knees now? Your butt. Do you feel the weight of your body against the cushion that you're sitting on? And just walking through your body is just another way, instead of doing the breath, that's just another method that I saw that I've used that I like.
Yeah, that's true. He does mention in some of the guided meditations on waking up, he'll talk about noticing the feeling of your butt or your legs in the chair, or your arms sitting on the arms of of your chair that you're sitting on, or let's see, what else does he talk about? With your eyes closed, looking at your visual field, because even when your eyes are closed, it's not really nothing. You still see, some sort of like shimmery blackness and and just noticing those things that when you just blink your eyes, you never notice, oh, there's still some light coming through and I can still kind of see some motion through my eyelids, and just, switching it up sometimes where he has you focus on those things can be valuable, because it does help you, not just focus on your breath exclusively. Now, you've had some experience with TM, right? Transcendental meditation.
I have.
I know that a lot of the celebrities, either mostly a lot of comedians, I guess, that have,
it's interesting. It's true. Yeah, a lot of comedians
reference
do that.
doing TM.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? That's the one where I haven't looked. There's probably some guy on YouTube who says, here's exactly what you need to know about transcendental meditation without having to pay for it.
Yeah.
But the kind of official way to learn about it is to have somebody who's like a certified coach teach you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. I paid for that. You go for 3 sessions, something like that. And they talk about the history of.
Were they one-on-one or small group?
They were small group.
Okay.
They were a small group. It was like 4 or 5 of us.
Gotcha.
And then, And you sit with the teacher and you watch some videos, and it's a lot of, there is some history of, Indian and Hinduism where it started from, but some of these concepts were created by a teacher who came from India when he was in this country.
The Maharishi.
Maharishi, yes. Yep.
I just like saying the words.
Yeah, and it's a mouthful. So there's a lot of videos that he had from the 70s when he started brought it into this country, talking and teaching and just some of these concepts. And I found myself, while I'm watching these videos, actually kind of being hypnotized a little bit like into a zone between his voice and the things he's talking about. So you go to a few of these sessions with the teacher, and then he gives you privately your mantra. Okay. And it's based on, I believe, like your age and your sex and things like that. And so there's a bunch of different, and it's basically just a sound. And there's some things that I read online that certain sounds are linked to certain
frequencies,
certain gods, or certain like Hindu gods. And then sometimes it's certain things that you want to happen to you a little bit. So I think, but again, you're not given any of that information. It's just like, hey, here's a sound, just repeat it every, how often you want for like 20 minutes to yourself.
Now, when you're given that word, do you immediately just go on Google and look it up and try to figure out what it means?
Oh, I did.
What the guy thought of you based on what word he gave you.
Right. But that's where I found it was really based on your age and what sex you are.
Okay.
So, yep.
But I assume these are all non-English words, right?
Correct. Yeah. These aren't like normal words. I don't even think they're Indian words. These are
combinations of sounds.
These just combinations of sounds.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can Google it and they'll show you all the different combinations and based on your age and stuff like that, which to me was interesting because when you're given this mantra, you're one age, but like if you keep using it, I haven't found out, like, do you need to change the mantra because now you're a different age? I don't think so.
I would think, they would probably say there's something more metaphysical about it than that, but whether there is or not.
So, and the practice is 20 minutes twice a day, once in the morning and then once in the afternoon.
Okay.
You basically sit with your eyes closed, and the idea is you're just kind of saying this to yourself, and it's the same thing as your breath. Is your monkey mind will go start thinking about other things,
right?
And then when you remember, you just come back to saying the mantra to yourself.
Gotcha.
And what was good was practicing with him a few times, with my teacher a few times. You get very comfortable doing it, and I found myself being able to do it in a noisy airport. So I'll be sitting there waiting for my flight, and there's announcements going on or whatever. You just close your eyes, and you still feel that a lot of deep rest. And that's the reason why I went, because I was kind of getting tired in the afternoons. Yeah. But by doing the practice for 20 minutes instead of taking a nap, sometimes I felt more rested after doing that meditation
Then go to sleep.
than actually taking a nap. And they've done some brain studies where they've hooked people up to different machines, and they've seen that the two halves of your brain when you are doing this TM meditation actually sync up, and they're able to like measure that they are able to communicate, I guess, in a little bit of a different way, or I'm not sure exactly what they mean by sync up, but through that, they've also measured your blood pressure and heart rate and all those things.
Yeah, that's
improve.
He mentions as a benefit to all meditation.
To all meditation, and they've shown some videos to us when we went through, because the TM also has a lot of group classes that you can go to and like weekend retreats and things where you dig in a little bit deeper. The other thing, what's interesting is they've got like this refresher. So you can call up your teacher like months after you've learned your meditation and your mantra, and you sit with the teacher and he kind of walks you through a couple of things about you just relaxing and saying the mantra. And I swear to God, man, after every time I've done it for like 2 weeks, when I've done my own meditation, after doing a refresher or recharge, I'm more rested. I'm deeper. I'm more rested.
Interesting.
And whatever you want to believe, man, whenever I walked into that guy's house, it was like I was walking into a cloud. It was like I had smoked something and I was high, and I just walked in and immediately just relaxed and things felt a little like heavier or whatever. And I was just like in the zone, just sitting in this chair across from him. There was something there. Maybe he's pumping something through his air conditioning system. I don't know, but it was significant. It was noticeable. It was noticeable. It was noticeable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So, I would encourage people to consider starting a meditation practice. All of the apps that you can download for free will start with a course that will teach you what you need to know. And I need to set a goal for myself to get back to that being a daily practice. And I think I might start the good thing about, like I said, Waking Up, Headspace, any of the apps that are 10% happier, they all have beginner courses where they first teach you, and it starts with a very short meditation. You build yourself up. So I've been away from it for a while, and I'm going to start tomorrow back with lesson number 1 and just work my way through the lessons. And then after that, most of them will then have a daily meditation after you finish the introductory course. And sometimes that's where the paywall kind of starts, where you get a brand new meditation of 10 minutes or 20 minutes every single day. But I've been a subscriber to his for years and years. So I'm going to start over tomorrow morning with number 1, the first lesson, and then get back into the practice. Then, our next episode is going to be about acupuncture, which will be my first real challenge of not crapping on stuff that I don't understand. And because I already went through the chapter and had some issues with, the nature of what is the nature of knowing something to be true, and where does the scientific method factor into things like acupuncture and the ability to reproduce an experience with a double-blind controlled study. And the fact that a bunch of people tell me they had acupuncture and it fixed their problem doesn't really mean a lot to me.
Have you looked to see if there are any double-blind placebo-controlled studies as it relates to acupuncture? I have not, but I'd be curious to see if there actually is some that show anything.
It's hard to do. I mean, how do you do a placebo study with sticking a needle in somebody, So that's the thing. Like, how do we know the effectiveness of acupuncture versus somebody who thought they got acupuncture?
Good point.
You know what I mean? Like, I've not seen anything like that because I don't know how that would even look. How do you?
Maybe they could put needles in the wrong spots. Somebody who doesn't know anything about acupuncture, right?
Okay.
And so you have it where they think like this meridian and this energy flow needs to be, and they put those needles in the appropriate spots, and then they put them in spots that are not supposed to fix that problem. Might maybe fix something else, but it doesn't fix it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Maybe that's flawed too, but I'm just wondering.
That is something that, I'd be curious to see
because
if that has been addressed. But look, even if it hasn't, if it's working for people, I don't want them to stop something that's working for them just because I'm a skeptic.
I mean, this has been done in Chinese medicine for years. I mean, hundreds, right, of years. This is not a new thing. So I think that if it didn't work, it would have been phased out. No?
Yeah, but, well, I mean, again, it depends on.
Or are we talking a placebo effect? Is it just a strong placebo
if you've grown
effect?
up in a culture where everybody says this is the way that you fix things with your body, and I mean,
I'm going to look into it for myself.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean,
I've got my arm kind of falls asleep.
Yeah, we talked about that in the last one.
Yeah, and so I'm going to look into it.
The one thing the one caution he does mention is don't just go anywhere because you are breaking the skin with these needles, so they need to be clean. And if they're not, then bad things could, staph lives on your skin. So when things go from outside your skin to inside your skin, that's when infections and things can happen. So,
shower.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah, definitely be clean.
But look for certifications, right?
Yeah, but I don't even know enough about the certifications to know what's, it's like, I remember back before I got married and I was shopping for engagement rings. It's like anybody can come out and say, we certify diamonds. And it's like, okay, I don't know what that means. It's like, I do know what a board certified MD is, but I don't know what a certified acupuncturist is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, somebody could print off their certificate on their inkjet printer and say that they're certified. And I would not really be able to argue with them. So I don't know. I would probably just trust Google Maps and see somebody that has a lot of
There's
positive
got to be
reviews.
some sort of national boards or national
probably
organizations that list.
One would think. Yeah.
So we should maybe get on that and look at that.
Yeah. So I'm happy to try it out. I'll see if I can find a good deal on a Groupon and it happens to be a place that seems legit. And then I'll let them stick some needles in me and see how it goes.
Sounds good.
All right. So that's what we got for next time. So I have to do some research before we record the next episode, or I have to keep my mouth shut about all the things that I'm skeptical and think it is bullshit. So that won't make for a good podcast if I'm like, I'll defer to Dan on this particular matter because I didn't put my money where my mouth was. So there we are. Okay. Thanks, Dan. I will talk to you next time about acupuncture and whatever other topics we can get through. And we will work our way through the short book. And then hopefully the next few weeks, we'll be sharing what we're going to do for our next one.
Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep. Bye-bye.